Do you know how to make a great golf setup so you can hit the ball a lot more consistent and straight down the middle? Well, in this next video, I'm going to show you the biggest mistakes I see golfers make in the setup, how to avoid them and what you should be doing right so you can play better golf. I'll see you soon. Hey, it's Troy from Hitting It Solid here. In this video I'm going to take you through the biggest mistakes I see that golfers make in their setup that's causing a lot of issues in their golf swing. Now, I realise with the setup it's not the most exciting thing that golfers like to work on, but the truth is a lot of your golf swing mistakes that you're making can quite often be traced back to errors you're making at setup. So it's an absolute critical part of the game that you need to get right if you want to play more consistent golf. So before we get stuck in, please give this video a big thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. More subscribers I get helps me grow the channel and keep producing golf swing videos like this to help us all play better golf. So I'm going to show you two lots of different angles, one from down the line and also face on, showing you what most golfers do wrong with their setup. So from down the line, one of the most common ones I see, now if I'm setting up to a ball here, is golfers that stand too far away from the ball, and you'll see the hands up very high like this, or they might have their hands down very low like this. Now, a great checkpoint I like to do as I set up to the ball, I like to get the back of my armpits here roughly, I'll see if I can show you this, down in line with about the balls of my feet when I'm at setup. So it should be roughly somewhere at about this position here. I don't want to be knees too bent, you'll see them way forward. At the same time, I don't want to be too upright like this and have the armpits way back in the heels. I want them somewhere around this area here. So it looks something like this. So if I'm at my setup like this, somewhere right around that position there, and that's ideal. Now the other thing I like to do on my setup is as my butt, as I'm set up to the ball, I like to see this, but as I point down, if I was to draw a straight line down here, I like to see this fairly close to the back of my heels. I don't want to have my knees too bent and have this butt area way back here, or standing too upright and have it virtually on top of my heels. I just want a slight bit of knee flex, and that's a great position to be in at my setup. So now the third thing I want to do as I get set up here, I want the butt end of my club to be roughly pointing at my belt buckle. So if I was to draw a straight line through the butt end of the club, from here, it will go straight through my belt buckle. I don't want it to be hands too high like this, would be pointing up towards my chest, or too low, pointing way down here. I want it straight towards my belt buckle in that position there. Now the fourth thing I like to look at is have my shoulders and my arms hanging in a relatively straight line over the ball. So again, at my setup, I want my hands and arms roughly just hanging naturally in a fairly sort of straight line right on top of each other down towards the golf ball. Don't want them down too low like this, and I don't want them up too high like this, which is probably a very common one. I want them hanging fairly naturally straight down. You can see there I'm just letting them hang fairly naturally over the ball like that. So that's number 4. Now number 5 is the position of the lower back. Now you want to have your lower back relatively straight, and the upper part of your back will have that slight little curve in it. And that'll look something like this. If I'm over the ball, you'll see my lower back should be relatively straight, but then there'll be a curve in the upper part of my back. Now if you have trouble with this and you find your lower back is curving too much, as you set up over the ball, feel like you just pull your arms back towards your body, and that will straighten up your lower back. So if I'm set up like that, if I just pull my arms back a fraction, I get my lower back Nice and straight. There'll be a little bit of that curve in your upper back. And that's a really nice setup position to be in. So that's 5 mistakes I see from that down the line view that are critical that you need to fix to help you get that better golf setup. Now from face on, as I'm set up to the ball like so. Now because we grip as a right-hander, because I'm gripping it with my right hand will always be lower than my left, we should have a little bit of tilt at setup. In other words, a little bit of tilt up this way. Now most commonly where golfers go wrong is, as they're set up to the ball, they'll have this tilt the opposite way around. They'll actually might have their legs back like this, and they'll actually have their tilt pointing down in the opposite direction where their lead shoulder will be lower than their right. And it looks something like this, and that's a really poor setup position that will lead to a number of mistakes. So what you want to do is actually have a little bit of tilt where the lead shoulder is a little bit higher up, and it looks something like this. And a great little practice thing you can do, or a checkpoint, grab your club, put it in your sternum and just tilt basically until that club head hits your lead leg. So if I do this, once it hits that lead leg, I know I've got just the right amount of access tilt at setup to hit the ball well. And the other thing you can also do is just bump your hips just a little bit forward, and that will naturally tilt your shoulders. You're in a great setup position there. Now the second thing is, now this depends on what club you're hitting. I've got a 6-iron here. For your irons, you typically want to have a slightly bit more weight on your lead side. I'd say probably about maybe 55 to 45. So if I'm set up to a ball here, I want to feel like I've got a slight bit of more pressure in my lead leg as I set up to the ball. Now it's not a lot, just enough, because we want to hit more down with our irons. We want to have a slight bit of more pressure on that lead leg. And that's a great spot. Now obviously with your driver you want to have a little bit more neutral setup, maybe even a fraction on your back leg, because we're trying to hit more on the up. But typically with your irons you want just a fraction more weight on that lead side. That helps us sit down and through the golf ball. Now the third thing is ball position, and again this depends on what club you're hitting. I've got a 6-iron, so typically with a mid sort of iron we want it roughly in the center of our stance. So if this is the center of our stance, we want the ball just slightly forward of center. So I've got about the center here. I've got that ball slightly forward of center with a 6-iron. Now as we go down the clubs to 7, 8, 9, the pitching wedge, you probably want it more towards the center. As we get down to the lower irons and your woods and your driver, you want to put that ball position further forward. Most golfers I see have the ball position way too far back in their stance. I'll have it somewhere back here. And that causes a multitude of problems, particularly with your woods and that, if you've got it too far back. Even with your irons, if you've got it way too far back in your stance, it causes the bottoming out section of the iron to get really out of place, and a lot of inconsistent golf shots result in that. So aim for around about that forward of center with the mid irons and adjust it accordingly from there. Okay, so the last one that I see is a very static club head over the ball that's set up. So if I'm set up over the ball, a lot of golfers, they'll get over the ball and they'll just remain completely still. They'll sort of be holding the club fairly tight, a lot of tension, and it sort of tenses up their whole body and doesn't make for a very rhythmical, very smooth golf swing. Where you see a lot of pros, they'll get over the ball and they'll sort of be shuffling around in their stance. They'll normally do a few little waggles, just getting rid of the tension in their whole swing. Little few adjustments and then bang, they're away, and they're making the swing as loose and as smooth as possible, getting rid of any tension they might have. So just do a few little waggles, a few little shuffles with the feet, just to sort of keep things nice and loose at setup, and that will really help you make a much smoother golf swing from there. So there it is. So that's all the the big mistakes you can make in your setup, so make sure you avoid those and get set up over the ball correctly. Once you get a great setup, it really sets the scene for a fantastic golf swing and makes the game much easier. So make sure you don't neglect this part of your game. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Now below this video there'll be a couple of links to some additional golf instruction. Make sure you check that out, that'll really help you out. Once again, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.